Hello! My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. So we are doing my wrap up for the month of December in terms of reading today. It has been not a great month in terms of reading. I have a couple of hits, and I have a good surprise, but it's not that anything I read this month was terrible. It's just there weren't as many, really good things this month as I would hope. I don't know. It was a lot of just okay reading, I guess. So I'm gonna do things a little differently today. So I am gonna start with the stats, but I actually liked what I did in my year-end wrap-up where I just sort of showed you the stats and didn't walk through them. So I'm gonna do that now. So you guys kind of can see from all of that, yeah, it wasn't that great of a month. There weren't a lot of highs, there weren't a lot of lows. It was just sort of meh. And I think the biggest thing for me is how many books I actually ended up reading, because I don't know, for whatever reason I wasn't sure that I would, but I did get sick at the beginning of the month, which gave me some dedicated reading time, so that's how we jacked that number up into the teens. Didn't do a lot of reading while I was at home though over the break, so most of that was from the beginning of the month in terms of the bulk of the reading. But I listened to some audiobooks, I listened to some business type books, so good job me for enhancing my professional development. But anyway, wasn't that great of a month, but let's get into the funnest part of this video, which is the hits, the surprise, and the disappointments. So in terms of hits, I'm going to go with two actually. So the first one that I want to flag is, I believe the title is Too Fat, Too Loud, Too Slutty by Helen Peterson. So this is one I mentioned in the past because I kind of started it and then I had to take it back to the library, but I had it back out, so I actually was able to finish it. And I wouldn't say that this is the book that stuck with me the most in terms of all the things it was talking about. That will be the next book I talk about for hits. But when I was reading it, I just kept thinking, this is the kind of book I really want to write. It's really in my wheelhouse in terms of it's an intellectual take on pop culture, and that's just what I love. I would love to write a book like that, and that one's about feminist or women's study things, which I love. So yeah, I would absolutely love to write something like that. I really admired the writing and thought that it was well structured. I think it dragged on a little bit in some places, but for the most part I really enjoyed it, and I think I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. It was between, I would say it was a 4.5 to 5, and I just sort of tipped it over to 5, and on my scale I believe that would be a 6 out of 7 unicorns. So that one is the first one, Too Fat, Too Loud, Too Slutty. The next one is, I believe, called Smarter, Faster, Better. Lots of these 3 list title things, by Charles Duhigg. And I've actually read a book of his in the past called The Power of Habit that I really enjoyed. And I listened to this book on audio, and it, between those 2 hits, is the one that's really stuck with me. It's basically a book kind of examining productivity and what makes productive teams, and how do businesses behave productively, I guess. But I actually found it really applicable in a couple of other areas of my life. And yeah, I've been thinking about it quite a bit since I read it, which I think is always a good sign. So I find him to be a very clear writer, and I think he does a good job of picking interesting kind of anecdotes and stories to illustrate his bigger points. So I definitely recommend that one. I really enjoyed it. And I gave it, I believe, 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which would be 5 out of 7 unicorns on my scale. Next is the biggest surprise. Now, earlier in the week I talked a little bit about having read this book in terms of this being the first from this author that I had read, and that is Man Hands by Sarina, Bowen, and somebody, Tanya, I forget who the co-writer is here. Here's the cover, it will say. I wasn't sure what to expect. People love Sarina Bowen. She's written a lot of particularly popular new adult. New adult is not generally my thing. Not that into that genre, for reasons, very specific reasons, which we won't get into right now, but this is more of a traditional sort of just contemporary romance between a blogger, I believe, and a somebody on the equivalent of an HGTV show. He's a handy guy, but he has his own show and he's super popular. I think you're meant to picture someone like one of the Property Brothers in this, except like beefier. It was super funny. I was very surprised at how funny this book was. Now, I think sometimes it was being a little cute, and it was a little aware of how cute it was being. Like, it got a little self-chuckly at some points, but I'll give it a pass because I did think it was genuinely funny, as opposed to like, oh, look how cute and clever I'm being, and it's not actually funny. I thought this was a genuinely funny book. It did make me laugh at several points. I ended up only giving it a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, though, because the ending was super abrupt. They opened up a lot of things that I really feel like they probably should have sort of like wrapped up and had some resolution on, because basically there's a few things that you can do in a romance plot that like the reader knows if this happens, then this is going to be the conflict that comes up. And they set up 2 of those that did not actually get delivered on, which I felt like it was not playing with the tropes in a way that I felt like was successful. So that dinged it down a little bit for me, but it's a surprise in terms of how funny it was. I wasn't expecting that from Sarina Bowen, and I'm looking forward to digging further into her backlist because I do have a number of her titles on my e-reader. And then in terms of biggest disappointments, hey guys, so I have no idea what past me was thinking when it came to picking this disappointment, but there's no book that was more disappointing to me than The Billionaire's Favorite Mistake this month, and that is because Jessica Clare is one of my go-to comfort reads, and this just like big fat did not deliver. This is the rare case where I think critiques about the heroine being annoying are valid. I think a lot of times that's just internalized misogyny from readers, but that's a side note. In this case, the heroine was being completely unreasonable. The hero, while not perfect, was okay, but the heroine literally is pregnant from this guy who is one of her best friends, and just straight up decides not to tell him, and it's just bizarre. I don't want to get into the whole politics about, like, telling the father, but, like, if this person is one of your best friends and you're going to keep the baby, like, you probably need to tell him. Anyway, this was by far and away my biggest disappointment, so there we go. Oh, and sorry, just to reiterate, I want to be clear that I really do like Jessica Clare a lot, and I would recommend from this series The Taming of the Billionaire over this one, because she's one of my favorite comfort reads, so don't think that all of her books are bad. Most of them are really charming and kind of just light and fun. This was just a very bad entry in an otherwise, I think, pretty solid contemporary romance series. Okay, now I'm done. I honestly would say most of the books this month were kind of disappointing. Like, there weren't a lot of super highs this month, unfortunately. So, them's the breaks, what you gonna do? But anyway, that is kind of how the month of December went for me reading-wise. Hope you enjoyed watching that. If you did, please do like, subscribe, follow me on social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below. And I will see you guys back here again tomorrow for my week of all this content. I believe tomorrow will be a nice book haul for the month of December. Not that many books, to be honest with you. You know, I thought I'd show you what I got. So, I think that will do it. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye!